Okay, so yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this first in a series of three online learning workshops that we have for the Transpath project, prepared and facilitated by the sub-team for learning and language in the project. I will facilitate this first webinar. Uh, Later today, we have another second webinar that Jaap will facilitate, and Thursday we will have a third webinar. The purpose of these webinar is maybe good to remind everyone very briefly before we start, is to exchange and discuss our experiences across the 7 project nodes that we have regarding the problem diagnosis phase. As you will all know, in Transpath, we work with 7 different nodes, but also expect a sort of similar trajectory in each node, also for the research process in a transdisciplinary way, whereby we try to come up with questions that are relevant both for the societal stakeholders as well as for the scientific researchers. And the first phase in that is actually doing a proper problem diagnosis between the scientists and the societal stakeholders. And we thought that 1 year into the project, more than 1 year into the project, this would be a good moment to share our experiences so far with this problem diagnosis. At the same time, we realized that different nodes have really different histories, but also different trajectories in starting up with the project. So we do expect a quite wide range in experiences and maybe also progress in this phase. But we thought nevertheless it's good to share these experiences, and we thought it's good to do so in a bit of a structured way so that we capture it very well, and we also have a basis to reflect on ourselves, to facilitate our learning, but also maybe to contribute to some scientific outputs related to transformative pathways research and transdisciplinary research, as we have now 7 sort of cases from which we can learn. And for that last reason, in the learning team, especially Charlene, who is on maternity leave currently, and who actually has now a young baby girl with her since a few weeks. So I think everything is fine. Maybe also good just to mention that for everyone. But she helps to prepare the structure for this, and we will also use this structure to I hope to go through your presentations, but definitely we used it to prepare the forms that each node was requested to fill in. And it's good to see that we already have some forms coming in on the Google Drive. The program for this session is that we have 2 hours with a bit of introduction from me and maybe a bit of wrapping up. But roughly the first half of the session is dedicated to the experiences in the Brahmaputra node, starting with a 25 minutes presentation, but then a discussion. So then the floor is really also open for all the people from the other nodes to just ask questions or to raise issues that you would like to hear a bit more about. And after that, we take a very short break, just a few minutes for refreshing ourselves, and then we continue with hearing the experiences from the Vietnam project node on the circular economy transition in the Mekong Delta. And after that, we will close after roughly 2 hours in this session. I hope that all of that is clear. And if that is the case, then it means that I'd like to give the floor now to at least one of the team members from the Brahmaputra node to present the findings and the experiences with problem diagnosis so far.
Okay, thank you, Leon. So what we have done is that for presenting what we are thinking of sharing with the nodes today has been prepared, designed, and also would be presented by the young researchers of our team. So it's been done by Mizo, who is the postdoc, Gitima, who is a PhD scholar, and Jaya, who is a research associate in this project, along with Veena, who is from Cuts International and also our societal partner. So I'm not going to speak much because the slides and the presentation is going to talk about what we have been doing on the Brahmaputra node. So I would now hand it over to Mizo. And from Mizo, you can share the screen and as per, I mean, they know the sequence better than I do. So I think all of them are going to make certain amount of presentation. And I would also like to mention that we had a conversation with the team before they developed the slides and also the document that they have shared. And after we had the conversation and discussion, they developed it and shared it with all of you. So Sumit and I would be quiet today, and it would be given to the young researchers. So over to you, Mizo.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. We will Jaya, Gitima, and me, and then Veena will conclude with her observations. So first Jaya will make the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Mizo. Thank you, Anamika, and thank you so much, Leon. So before dive into the presentation, I'll give a quick overview of this Brahmaputra and Brahmaputra River Basin. So this Brahmaputra River Basin, it's originate in the Tibet Autonomous Region of the China. Brahmaputra River forms the Brahmaputra River Basin, which is shared by 4 countries, that is India, China, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. In India, this river flows through the state of Arunachal Pradesh and then Assam, and then goes to the Bangladesh, from where it eventually moves to the Bay of Bengal. So it is important to note that this Brahmaputra River Basin, it falls under the National Waterway 2. National Waterway 2, it is a stretch between the Sadhya, which is in the upper Assam, and it's connected to the Dhubri, which is in the lower Assam. This National Waterway 2 is very important because from the perspective of the trade, because it connects this northeastern state to the other part of the country for trade. Thus, it overall, overall helps in the economic development of the northeastern state. Now, I would give a brief overview that why we are so much interested to study this basin. There are various aspects associated to this. First is the trade aspect. This route has been used for trade since ages. In fact, to boost the trade between India and Bangladesh, which is our neighboring country, we signed a protocol in 1972, and again with some modifications to increase the trade between the countries, some additions were made. This route also play a very important role in the domestic trade as well. Thus, it overall contributes in the economy of Northeast and other part of the country. Second aspect is a tourism aspect. This Brahmaputra River Basin is a home of very culturally rich, vibrant heritage site. In Brahmaputra Basin, we have Majuli, which is the world's largest river island. And in these islands, there are hatras are present. These hatras, they are culturally very vibrant. Some of them are involved in mass making, some of them are involved in acting, Ras Leela, and some of them are involved in other aspects. And all these cultural aspects, they are still present in these river basin. Third important aspect is environmental aspect. This river is a home to various flora and fauna. Various varieties of fishes are present. Even some of them are endangered. In fact, not only this river basin, the wetlands which are surrounding this river basin, they are also home to various migratory birds. Apart from these three in broader aspect, the fourth important point which I would like to make, that this river basin is most under-researched river basin. So there is still a lot of scope that is been associated with it, and there are future which we can, there are various research topic which we can explore further. Apart from this aspect, there are certain challenges which are present in the basin, which again makes it quite interesting to study. First is the navigation problem. Since Brahmaputra River, morphologically, this river is very interesting. It it keeps on fluctuating. Sometimes the water level is very high, sometimes the water level is very low. Thus, it makes the navigation quite challenging. Apart from that, in certain segments of the national waterway too, there are certain segments where there is an issue of navigation aid and security, which further adds to the challenge. Second challenge is the governance issue. So in India, this water is a state subject, whereas the rules and regulations, which is related to the inland water development, it falls under the purview of central government. So there is a regulatory gap, there is a departmental coordination gap among ministries. In fact, not only among ministries, the department which are operating at the state level, the department which are operating at the local level, there is a overall governance issue and coordination issue. Third important loophole in this entire governance structure is the non-inclusion of local communities. So the voices of the local communities is never been the part in the decision making, which is related to the development of inland water navigation. Fourth challenge is the environmental problem. I am not going to talk much about it because one of our PhD candidates, she is exclusively working on this. Then next is what are we trying to do through this project? So through this project, we want to harness this inland water navigation to bring the transformation change in the basin. How we want to navigate these challenges which are lying in the governance, in the non-inclusion of local communities, their voices in the decision making, and these environmental aspects. We want to bring this, tackle this problem through a inclusive, transparent, and participatory approach. We are very well aware that we won't be able to solve all these problems, but through this project objective, we would at least try to bridge the gap which is present at the present moment. And how we will bridge the gap, how we are going to at least try to bring some transformative change. For this, we have a transdisciplinary team. We have a scientific partners, which is IITG, and we have societal partners. In societal partners, we have two type of partners: regional partners and local partners. Each and every member of this transdisciplinary team, they are they are trained, they are skilled in certain disciplinary, like some of them are in economics, some of them are in media, sociology. In fact, our local partners, they play different role in the field. Like Cuts International, it plays a role in advocacy, and certain organizations, some of them are involved in community management. This is how we will operate through this project. Now, I will give a quick overview of the BRB timeline, that whatever we have done so far. So in April 2023, the first inception meeting was held in Delhi, and after a long discussion, we identified four study sites, two in India, two in Bangladesh. Then in June, policy assessment framework was presented by Dr. Sumit Viz in Mexico workshop. From July to November, the BRB node was involved in lots of activities, like we did literature survey, we formulated our first draft of research design. Simultaneously, we were writing blogs and we edited the blog. And once we were done with this, we went to the field to identify the problem. We went to Dhubri for our first reconnaissance survey. In January, after coming back from the field, we spent our whole month in the report writing, giving it a proper shape, and simultaneously working more on the research design. Then in February, we went for our second reconnaissance survey to Majuli, where we went for the problem diagnosis. In March, again, we were involved in report writing, developing the research design. In April, we had our first policy assessment class in 19th April, where Dr. Vij gave a presentation on the policy assessment. And from here, we will eventually start working on the policy assessment. Now I will give the presentation to Mizo. He will take you all to the further. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jaya. So the researcher design we developed with our knowledge partner Dr. Sumit Vijay leading, has two stages. First stage focuses on problem diagnosis. In problem diagnosis, at first we will do a policy document analysis. Like we will evaluate current policies that impacts climate change adaptation, water policies, inland water transport, using the SPIRIT framework. The policy document analysis aims to find the gaps, especially whether policies are transformative or not. The spirit framework was discussed in the earlier webinar. So the second step involves an intensive fieldwork and stakeholder interaction. In that direction, we conducted reconnaissance visits for problem diagnosis. We conducted visits in 2 sites in India. So the initial insights were shared in the last webinar. The first site was in Dhubri. In Dhubri, we conducted semi-structured interviews with the officials and local communities. The focus was more on stakeholder analysis, and the fieldwork on-ground strategies was mostly implemented or facilitated by our societal partner, Daughter from Cuts. The second field was in Majuli, where we conducted semi-structured interviews with the local communities. In the case of Majuli, since there are many local communities, we understood the geographical location of the local communities prior to the fieldwork through an analysis of GS map. And upon arrival, we conducted a transit path, which helped us to map the respondents and helped us to prepare a causal map on to identify the questions and all. So the intensive fieldwork will continue in the form of like focus group discussion or histories or key informant interviews. Then Bangladesh visits will be organized in the next couple of months. So second stage of research design involves a critical living lab, which are power sensitive living labs, more focusing on the actionable research. Like the living lab focus on co-production of knowledge and inclusion of more stakeholders and future actions. So I'll just focus on the major insights for problem diagnosis. We could find many opportunities to work in both in Dhubri and Majuli, which we call as low-hanging fruit. It was necessary to identify some low-hanging fruits as the fieldwork to an array of problems to us. So in Dhubri, we could identify that these small boat traders, they are excluded from the decision making, and they will benefit from their participation in international trade. As of now, they are not able to participate in international trade because of the licensing requirements and all. And it also the small trade traders needs setting up a platform for traders to meet informally and discuss trade opportunities in India and Bangladesh. So it poses a societal challenge in the form of power relation, and it raises many scientific challenges how to align with the interest of various actors. And at a policy level, it requires a cooperation between India and Bangladesh. So it makes the nature of the problem and the solution transboundary in nature. So moving on to Majuli. So we understood that there is a concentration of birds, which the local communities welcome with the promise of increased connectivity and accessibility, but a complete shift away from ferry service may reproduce the inequality exist in terms of last mile connectivity. So we want to work around the possibility to have a multimodal transportation. And the insights from the fieldwork pointed towards the livelihood crisis existing in Majuli among local community, especially women. So we want to work around the potential for developing sustainable livelihoods around the budding tourism sector in Majuli. And third aspect, looking at river and aquatic biodiversity through community-based conservation. All these three things pose a direct societal challenge, while the feasibility to have a multimodal transportation and the third aspect, like environment aspect, all raises a scientific challenge. And the problem solution in Majuli requires a multi-sectoral approach because all these problems pointed towards the need of coordination between line departments and different departments. So now I will hand over to Gitima, who will explain the her PhD, more focusing on environment aspects.
Thank you, Mijo. And in retrospect to what has been explained by our team members so far, we understand that inland water transport or IWT does impart certain socio-economic implication, but it is also but it also does impart certain environmental implication as well. Although IWT is advertised as being environmental friendly, having lower carbon footprint as compared to other modes of transport, meaning that development of the IWT in the BRB region is inevitable. However, the definition of sustainability suggests that there should not be any substitution. So while development of IWT in the BRB region is imperative, but it should not disregard or undermine the safeguards of the river and the river biodiversity, which are also the river inhabitants, because the impacts on the direct impacts on the river and the river biodiversity might also pose consequences to their human counterparts as well. So with that being said, my PhD thesis as a scientific contribution to the overall objective of this node is trying to understand the nuances of policies with respect to inland water transport by identifying the actors and incorporation of environmental conservation in the decision-making process. And then I would like to conclude by suggesting certain mitigation recommendation that will be aided through technology, which not only will utilize GIS-based ecological assessment, but also citizen science data to ensure community participation. Now, some of the field insights that I observed through our initial visits to Dhubri and Majuli is that the perspective of stakeholders in Dhubri around the river and the river biodiversity is more from the point of view of livelihood, as we can see here, mostly is from fishing related and trading related activities. And this is also similar in Majuli. However, there is a cultural backing to it, as you can see from the images, that how river biodiversity is evident and deeply rooted in the mythological legends of Majuli's culture. And apart from that, when we interacted with stakeholders, we could see that the stakeholders in Dhubri lacks awareness about the impacts that IWT can have on the environment, which was completely opposite in case of Majuli. And apart from these, the stakeholders like traders, local community members, and fisher folks in Dhubri were not much concerned about environmental conservation, because being from a economically backward district of Assam, their priority of concern is improving their livelihood, which was not so in case of Majuli, because their livelihood is mostly focused around nature-based and ecotourism-based model. So they take their environmental conservation of riverine environment very seriously. And finally, when we interacted with the local government officials in Dhubri, we could see that although they are aware about the situation of the impacts of inland water transport on the river environment, all they could have done so far is environmental impact assessment, or the EIS, with no follow-up mitigation intervention, which is not the case for Majuli, because the government there is quite serious about their environmental conservation, and they do suggest certain mitigation interventions. So to summarize the field learnings through my point of view, I could identify certain opportunities in terms that we need to increase awareness in the stakeholders of both the both Dhubri and Majuli through our community-based conservation intervention that needs to be supported by government through the incentives and intervention. But the challenge here that I identified is that how do we achieve it? And finally, how I can visualize my PhD thesis to be aligning with the project is through 2 points. First of all is the concern of environmental conservation, which I feel can be achieved through the common platform in the form of living lab that our node is being emphasizing time and again, so that we can arrive at a consensus solution. And the second point is that since our node is in the pursuit of inclusivity to bring overall transformation in the basin. So my PhD, I think, and I feel would fit perfectly into this scenario. And now I would like to hand over the presentation to Dr. Veena, our societal partner from Kutch International, where she would explain the findings of Kutch International from Dhubri and their learnings from that. Handing over to Veena.
Thank you, Gitima. I hope I am audible to all.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share Kutch's interventions in inland waterways sector. So before going into the details of our interventions and achievements, it's also important to understand, Jaya has already spoke about the significance of inland waterways, the history of waterways and all, because till the British era and even after independence of India and Pakistan, waterways used to be the major means of cargo movement between Eastern India and East Pakistan at that time. And it was after the India-Pakistan War of 1965, this waterways were virtually cut off. And then it was revived as soon as Bangladesh became independent in 1972 under the trade agreement, the Protocol of Inland Waterways. The Protocol of Inland Water Transit and Trade was signed between India and Bangladesh. And this was to facilitate the movement of cargo and passengers between two countries and from one country to the other country through the territory of one country to third country through the territory of the other country. After that, if you look at the trade statistics, you can see that nothing much happened from 72 onwards, because the subsequent government's focus was more on developing roadways and railways and not waterways. And the statistics reveal that from 2000 onwards, the data is there, but again, it's not much. And from 2010 onwards, there is an increase in the volume of trade which happened through the protocol routes. And the data is here. You can see that it's in an incremental mode. And there is significant increase from 2016, 27, and in 2015, the protocol was revived. The National Waterways Act came in 2016, and there were a lot of political interest at that time, not just between India and Bangladesh. Bhutan was interested to access the waterways in Bangladesh. Nepal's transit agreement with India was also revised to include the waterways component as well. So a lot of things happened in the political landscape, which also, invited investments from multilateral agencies like World Bank in developing waterways. Next slide. So it is at this point that Kutch intervened for the first time to understand, to identify the challenges and opportunities which are lying around the inland waterways sector. And, as the statistics show, we found that the most active zone in the protocol route from Kolkata to Pandu, which is the protocol route number 1, is between Kolkata and Narayanganj, where the commodity traders is fly ash. It's more than 99% of the commodity traded between India and Bangladesh is just one commodity, which is fly ash. And if you look at the upper stream, the trade is, the upper stretch of the stream is relatively dormant or inactive. Now, there are different reasons for that, navigability being the prime issue. This is not, the upper stream is not under the influence of tide, and there is no industry development in Assam side. There is no return cargo, and fewer number of vessels. So a lot of issues were there, which led to the, relatively inactiveness of the upper stretch of Brahmaputra. Next slide. So our recommendation from the study was to identify shorter stretches, because whenever we talk about the economics of waterways, the scale matters. It's always about big vessels. It's always about big volume. So why can't we identify short stretch like Dhubri and Chilmari, which is about hardly 60 kilometers apart, and it's very close to the international border. And look at that particular stretch and identify commodities that can be traded using small vessels. So here the scale is reduced, the distance is reduced, and it will be economically viable. The depth required for the movement of small vessel is much less than that required for bigger vessels, and that will involve local community as well. So, and support trade by designing and commissioning suitable vessels and other infrastructures that could facilitate short-haul trade. So the case of Dhubri and Chilmari was taken as a pilot study in 2017-18 for the case of short-haul trade between India and Bangladesh. And we also looked into the regulatory and infrastructure gap analysis near around this particular stretch. So the approach was multi-stakeholder engagement. We spoke to many people, policymakers, boat associations, the riverine communities, local traders, the competent authorities in India and Bangladesh, that is Inland Water Authority of India and Bangladesh Inland Water Transport Authority, the Customs Department, because Customs Department notify which commodities can be traded through a particular port, the exporters, the farmers, the producers who are interested to send their produce to the other country through waterways. Next slide. So the strategy was evidence-based advocacy. So we went to field, we talked to people, we did so many interviews, key informant interviews, focus group discussions, and we came up with policy briefs. And we discussed that in other stakeholder consultations, organized a series of dialogue at subnational and national level, and even at the basin level, including participants from Bhutan. We have organized several meetings with the private sector, traders meeting to understand the concerns of private sector, because they have their own reservations for entering into this stream, because though it appealed to be cost effective, for private sector to be interested, it has to be, the transportation must be time bound, reliable, and cost effective. And at that much of certainty is not there with waterways at this point of time. Next slide. So the outcome of the advocacy efforts of CUTS was that Dhubri and Chilmari were declared as ports of call along the protocol route in October 2019 as the first addendum to the protocol. And in the same year, in the month of December, the movement of shallow draft vessels from Dhubri to Chilmari was also permitted. And you can see the data which shows the volume of trade which is happening through this route, Kolkata, Dhubri, Pandu, which is this, 6,456 into the year 2020-21. And once this route was declared as once Chilmari and Dhubri were declared as port of call and trade started happening between these two places, you can see the trade volume happening in that particular route. The latest data is available up to 2021-22 only. Next slide. So what went well? So there are several factors. So we identified the low-hanging fruits. We spoke to the stakeholders, and they were quite interested. There were few traders in the Indian side who were willing to take the cargo to Bangladesh through waterways. So they started initiating the process. The consultations and dialogues also helped. We published so many op-eds in media, and there were alternate strategies of policy influencing as well, because we also approached the boat association. The boat association submitted a memorandum from their behalf to the member of parliament, and letters were submitted to the competent authorities in India and Bangladesh. So the agenda of declaring Dhubri and Chilmari as port of call were taken in the standing committee meeting of the protocol committee. So the timing was also important. As I said, political interest needs to complement the business interest for policy outcome. And at that time, everything was in favorable situation. The social implications, we spoke to people near Chilmari. At that time, not much trade was not happening. this is before the declaration of Dhubri and Chilmari as port of call. They were not aware of the protocol, or Indian vessels hardly moved once in a year or twice carrying the over-dimensional cargo, or once in a year the tourist vessel used to move through that protocol route. But they said that they will be benefited due to the cheaper price of consumer goods and newer opportunities. Now, as of now, consumer goods movement is not happening through the route. It's mostly stone and coal. But once this happens, it will actually, the consumers on both sides of the border will definitely benefit from this arrangement. Next slide. So the way forward is, declaring Hatsing Mari, which is a location which comes in between the route from Dhubri to Chilmari, and it is very close to the state of Meghalaya. And Meghalaya has a lot of, agriculture produce like oranges, pineapple, bamboo, cashew, etc., arecanut. So there is a lot of demand of these commodities in Bangladesh side, but right now these are taken through land routes. So once the Hatsing Mari is declared as port of call, goods can be loaded from Hatsing Mari itself and then taken to Chilmari. Now, the second point of advocacy is allowing small mechanized boat between Dhubri and Chilmari. The whole point of our advocacy was to allow the mechanized boats to ply in the international route. But as you can see, the Bangladesh side has allowed the movement of low draft vessels. The vessel specifications in Bangladesh, as per the Act, allows the movement of low draft vessels to ply in the international route. But from Indian side, no vessel is going to Bangladesh. So if this arrangement is done, this can be taken up as a point because this particular stretch is in the upper stream and it is not under the influence of tide. And so the vessel specifications required for the stretches which is under tidal influence may not be applicable for the upstream stretch. So this can be taken up as an advocacy point. And engaging with private sector, like I said, with traders, the business chambers. Business chambers are looking for incentives from government to construct vessels of their interest and facilitate informed discussions among stakeholders. So establishing a multi-stakeholder platform. And this is very important for inclusive policy making, because water is not just for navigation. Water also is required for agriculture, for fisheries, and even for ecosystem services, other ecosystem services. So there are instances of conflict, like Gitima also pointed out in her presentation, but a better informed discussion, including various departments. When we talk about agriculture, fisheries, for agriculture also, water is being extracted from the river. So different line departments are there, and they need to coordinate among themselves for better governance of inland waterways. So many of these points are very much in line with the agenda of Transpath project, and there is a lot of complementarities between the work which KUTS has been doing so far and the TPP project's objective. So once this inclusiveness happens in that space, the transformative change can happen. Of course, it is easier said than done, but short incremental changes are very important. And like I said earlier, so our advocacy effort could declare Dhubri and Chilmari as port of call, and then there are some changes after that. So it needs continuous effort. So the project is very timely in that respect. And yeah, we all hope that we can make some meaningful effort towards the end. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Veena and Gitima and Jaya and Mizo for a nice and clear presentation. I thought it was interesting just to hear your full story, but you took also a bit of discussion time, so we do have ample time for discussion left. But let's get going with it, because we also want to leave time for a mini break and then of course for the Vietnam note. So maybe I'm not sure who is sharing the slides, but maybe it's nice to stop sharing so that for the discussion we can see who is asking the questions and who is answering. That's but that means the floor is open for discussion. So if you want to ask something, maybe type it in the chat, raise your hand, or if that is all difficult, then simply just unmute. I have several questions, and while maybe others think of theirs, let me ask one first question, and that is a bit further clarification in a way. Well, what I thought was really nice and really strong is that in fact you have already in this meeting quite a few stakeholders visibly on board in the project and involved in the problem diagnosis, including not just the staff from IIT Guwahati that started the presentations, but also Vina's contribution from CUTS. At the same time, I was wondering, could you clarify a bit further how that collaboration has been going on in the problem diagnosis phase, for instance, in these reconnaissance visits that you have been having with the researchers, maybe how you have sort of organized that, or and how you see that in the upcoming critical living labs. And a similar type of question, but then to our colleagues from Bangladesh, because if my impression is correct, so far the focus has mostly been on the India part of the river. So maybe you also could expand a little bit of how the collaboration between India and Bangladeshi partners and sites has been shaping up so far. And it's definitely not meant as criticism, because I realized that I think you have a very, very ambitious project with fairly limited resources. But so it's really just yeah, curiosity and figuring out what is going on in your node team. I'm not sure who can indeed maybe address these questions.
Yeah. So Mizo, Gitima, Jaya, Veena, anybody would like to respond to this, or yeah, no? How are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
I'll just address one thing, like our societal partners involvement was very important for during problem diagnosis, because we have seen their work like in Dhubri, and so they were very helpful to plan the strategy and implement them on the ground, like because of their contacts and the fieldwork experiences there. And we arrived at the low-hanging fruits in consideration with the societal partner only. And the same goes for Majuli also, like they have field experiences in Majuli. So, and we were in constant conversations with the societal partner, planning the field work and reaching, finalizing the societal changes, etc. So I just wanted to say.
Yeah. It's just to add to what Mizo mentioned, even the study sites, actually, we had not decided the study sites before the inception meeting, although we knew that we will be focusing on India and Bangladesh. But selection of study site, both in the India side and the Bangladesh side, apart from asking or taking help from CUTS, we also felt that it would be good if we also have a conversation with the Bangladeshi partners. So when we had the inception meeting, we had CEGIS representative, Manovar, who has joined today. And we also had JJS today. He couldn't join. Zakir, you have met him before. So they were a part of that inception. So it was very good, because it was easier for us to also justify that why are we taking these 4 study sites, because there were real strong reasons suggested by both Veena and JJS and CEGIS. So that is something that they helped. And as Mizo rightly pointed out, Kutch, one of the reasons we approached Kutch when we were developing this proposal was because they had a lot of experience in IWT. And so we thought it would be good to expand their work and also bring it a bit of an academic flavor to what they are doing, connecting it with theory and, also bringing the policy aspect, etc. Leon, you asked about the Bangladesh counterpart. I was looking for Zakir, but I see that he hasn't joined today. So actually, we had planned the Bangladesh fieldwork almost, 2 months back. But two things happened. One is there was election in Bangladesh. So Zakir mentioned that it's not the right time to, travel at that time. And then the Ramadan started. So that was also a bit difficult for them to go to the field. But I think Veena can shed some light because Veena is in the consultation with Zakir, and I think they are planning the field work soon. I think in next 1 month time or something. Veena, would you like to?
Yeah, in the last week of May. So we are planning it in the last week of May. So we will be doing a similar exercise which we have done in Dhubri. We'll be talking to different stakeholders over there, and we have identified the locations for Bangladesh as well, which are critical to waterways movement, critical points of trade, which we have identified. There is also a big project coming in Bangladesh, which is the Jamuna Economic Corridor project. Brahmaputra is known as Jamuna in Bangladesh. So the locations we have selected also, one of the location is very close to the project locations of Jamuna. The social and environmental impact assessment study has been already done and published. This is supported by World Bank, the whole investment program. And so once that is what I said, like a lot of political attraction and investment is happening in India. Also, there is the Eastern Water Grid project which is coming up. So once all these are established, seamless movement of cargo through inland water transport is envisaged. And in the Jamuna Economic Corridor project, they are also considering not just dredging, but riverbank protection and other river training techniques and all, because river training is also very important to ensure navigability. It's not just the dredging, because dredging is always criticized. It has some environmental implications and all. But Bangladesh has very good experience in river training. They actually train the river, using their techniques and all. So river training is also a component under this project. So we will be talking to relevant people associated with that project as well, so that we can get some insights to our study from Bangladesh as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So let me check if with the colleagues there are questions now or remarks or things that others would like to share or ask.
I have a question, or I also liked the presentation, and I thought it's nice to see the whole overview of the project and what you're working on. That's really informative. I was thinking about these transformations and what are then the transformations, and I was wondering whether I can imagine that different stakeholders, local communities along the river, India government, Bangladesh government, they all have a different perspective on these transformations. So how do you see that, or what are their views on what needs to be transformed? That's what I see it in the presentations, but I thought it's that was a question that came up to me. And the second question I had is that because also in the last part of the presentation, I thought it was nice that you also mentioned. I can imagine that. Yeah, it's more river transport, or it's less river transport, or it's different river transport, but that also has implications for land transport. So whether you also take that into account, the pros and cons of both, and so those are the questions that I had after your very interesting presentation.
Yeah, Sumit, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a very, the first part, I will try to answer the first part of the question. The reason is because that was the same thought, at least while we were thinking of the project and the proposal idea. Also, it came to my mind that how do we know that how these states or the different actors involved understand transformation. So I think the answer lies in one of the key activities of policy assessment, that there is, of course, you can interview people to find out what do they understand by transformation and what do they aim, particularly on inland water navigation. But the problem is also that what do they write? And I think the policy assessment, I think the word assessment would change. The way we are trying to understand policies is to identify if they really talk about transformation or not. And there are, of course, several characteristics that we discussed last week. And basically to understand what is the understanding of the government or the state actors or people who are involved, because nowadays at least they say that policies are not created in isolation. They involve other actors, including civil society, in the drafting of these documents. So there are different perspectives that do come in. And that itself answers the question, Wim, that this exercise of assessment will help us to understand what these actors understand in terms of transformation. What is their thinking behind, or what is the underlying thinking when they say or they use the word transformation, at least in the documents, formally and informally through some of these interactions that we have had with them. I'll stop here. The second part of the question, maybe others can respond to that. I can, but I think let's give the floor to others.
Yeah, so I'll respond on the second part. Yeah, so land transport modes are already there, and it's happening. And when we talk about the interest of private sector, why would they, shift their mode of transport from land to waterways unless it is not economic for them? So the economic factor of economics that comes in first. And another issue with waterways is that waterways cannot provide last mile connectivity. At some point, you have to take down, you will have to unload and then take it through by road or so. So when you are using waterways, so from source, you have to take that commodity to the river terminal. There it is uploaded, and then it is taken down at the river terminal in the other side of the border. And again, it has to be transported to, say, a truck or something, or sometimes even a train. So that actually adds the cost. So it is not economic unless the volume is big. That's why that's where the scale comes in. And so if there is already an established route and there are that is more reliable to the private sector, they will just opt for the land route only. Why would they switch to the waterways? So what we had proposed is that if you look scale wise, then short haul trade or short distance trade would never come up. But the advantage with short haul trade and introducing small vessel is that year-round navigation is possible. For big vessels to ply, the depth should be at least 2.5 to 3 meter. Minimum depth is required, and that much of depth in Brahmaputra is available only during the rainy season or the monsoon season. So most of the trade used to happen at that time, or even the tourist vessel used to ply during that time. So with small vessels, if you're looking at short distance, then you can ply even at a depth of 1 meter or say 1.5 meter. So year-round navigation will also add to the volume of trade happening through the protocol, that in a way the government will also be interested, because they can showcase that, okay, this much of volume of trade has happened, whether it is for short distance or long distance. So that's the angle which we thought of. And of course, the narrative will differ because even the private sector, once they enter into this inland water transport sector, they will also look at the profit only. So they may not be interested in the small vessels, which we advocated for, say 20-ton, 50-ton vessels. They will be looking at 500-ton vessels where they can transport a large volume and get profits. So those kind of issues are there. Then there are infrastructural issues. We were talking about moving agricultural commodities, but then there needs to be quarantine facilities and other facilities along with the side of the river terminal where this can be done. That kind of awareness needs to be generated among the traders and farmers not farmers, usually traders procure products from farmers, and they are the big players in this. So that needs to be convinced. And even the vessel size, like if the volume of produce is not that much, so they can, carry different products in the same boat. So how can custom regularities can be assured? There's a lot of issues are there around regulatory aspects as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Vina. I see that Koen and Risper raised their hands, but also
thank you.
I'm looking a bit at the clock and trying to keep the entire session in time with a similar amount of time available for Vietnam. So what I propose that we do is that we hear the questions from Koen and Risper, because they're probably interesting angles to consider, but that we will not answer them, but we will note them, and then we can maybe revisit them later, maybe also when completing or redoing the written forms. But in the order of which I saw the hands coming up, Kwon, you're first with your question or remark.
Yes, thank you, Leon. Yeah. Sorry. I think yes. I think we may come back if you have time. I'm just curious further a bit on the living labs concept that you mentioned, because I still don't really understand what is really the concept of living lab that you are proposing, and what is really the lab you develop, or how you work across different group or stakeholders on this. Yeah. But just curious. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Koen. Yeah, that's indeed a very good question. And Risper, what is your question or remark?
Thank you, the Brahmaputra, for your good presentation. Actually, I don't have a question. I just have a remark on the information about lack of awareness on the impact of inland water transport on what was it, on the environment, that the people are not aware that actually the inland water transport has some negative impact on the environment. But usually even if you increase awareness of the people, it leaves the question of so what? Because I was just reflecting on our Kenyan wetlands, whereby we found out that people are actually, they're not converting wetlands to agriculture because they are not aware of the importance of wetlands, but rather they're converting them because of other reasons. So my feeling is that more effort, if we want transformation, then more effort should be put into conservation measures which could mitigate these impacts of inland water transport, rather than putting more effort into creating awareness, because we can be aware, but so what?
Yeah, thank you, Risper. And I noticed that Wim had actually a very good idea in the chat that maybe some of the people in the Brahmaputra node may want to address the remark, but also the question by Koen already in the chat during the meeting, if you have some feasible thoughts on that way we can do it in parallel. That's actually a good idea. And then let me add one last sort of question or remark from my side, also specific for the nice experiences in the Brahmaputra node so far. It's a bit based on an earlier experience I have had, and in which few of you were also involved with, working in sort of this transdisciplinary way in 4 different sites. Then the challenge may become that as we already saw on the slides with the problem awareness, I'm not sure, maybe it was Gitima or Jaya slides, that even in the 2 sites in India, there were different levels of awareness, but also maybe different problems or different understandings and different priorities. That will, with 4 sites, will be maybe quite may create some differences between the sites that then create challenges of how do you then deal with that, also to keep sort of a science component linked to each. May be something you can also reflect on, or otherwise I guess you will be encountering it in the coming few months and years. But with that, let me thank the team from the Brahmaputra River Basin Node for the really interesting presentation and sharing of experiences. Let's take a very short break, just 3 minutes, but then you can at least all get up, get a coffee or tea or refresh yourselves. And then in 3 minutes, let's continue with the presentation from the Vietnam node. So that is at yeah, in my clock, it's 8 minutes past 10. I'm not sure all your clocks, but just in 3 minutes. So just a very brief break, and then hope to see you all back to continue with hearing the experiences in the Vietnam node. So see you in a short while. Everyone is back with us and had a short opportunity to stretch their legs. That's always good in between a longer meeting. And then without much further ado, let me hand over to the colleagues from Vietnam for their presentation.
Yes, thank you, Leon. Good afternoon, everyone from Vietnam. So I would like to share my screen.
Yeah, I hope it is possible for everyone to share the screen.
Yeah. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it. We can also hear you. And
Okay.
maybe in the meantime, also a good idea to build on that suggestion to write the answers in the chat. Maybe if questions pop up during the presentation, also just write them in the chat. Then we can pick them up directly after. But we can see the screen, Koen. So all
Yeah,
clear.
thank you, Leon. Yeah, so on behalf of my team, I'd like to share with you what we have been doing in Vietnam. So actually, we plan to have actually presentation by my other college. So I will give first introductions, and we are now working on 3 cases. And Dr. Tu will give the first case. My other colleagues, Khôi and Dr. Khôi, Dr. Bình, actually they cannot join today. So Tu will take also their talks, yeah, and I will give some final propose on some next step that we are doing. Yeah, so I think because the topic we put also circular economy, so I'm not sure if some of you are familiar with the circular economy concept. So just like to share with you.
I think the line they're not.
We are still seeing the final slide only. Maybe there is something with the presentation mode.
It could be in the PowerPoint mode, I think, Kwan.
Sorry?
Right now, if you couldn't just PowerPoint, PowerPoint mode, it's not as of now moving.
Okay, maybe I will just stop sharing and try again with the full sharing. Okay, so can you see mine now?
We can see, but again, it's a slide mode, not a PowerPoint.
Yeah, it's
No.
now okay.
Yeah, this is better. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so just give you a very quick introduction about circular economy, which is, I think we use this, one of the very popular definition, looking at circular economy as economic system that based on business model, and there are some principle related to reducing or alternative reducing, recycling, recovering material in elongate of the whole production side from production, distribution, consumptions. And also it can work through different levels from micro levels like product, like in the farm system, company, consumer, but can be meso levels where different company can work together as industrial park, or at the macro level where we can look at it, the city or the regions or nation or even international scales. So on the left right side, you see the logo so-called butterfly, where if you look at the blue circle, which is more, they call it technical material, where we look at the productions to distribution, also to for final consumption to the landfills. And there are several loops depending on the distance. We can, for example, going back like maintenance or reuse or refurbish or recycle of different products. And also on the green cycle, where you see the linkage based on biochemical principle, where different processes, anaerobic or energy related can be applied. Yeah, so actually the main things for circular economy is we can try to decouple the development and environmental degradation, so it can try to look at it multi-purpose or more innovative. Another picture where you see in the right down the left side down, where circular economy also have a strong linkage to carbon neutrality, because it's now become one of the top agenda. So if we can look at on renewable energy, so it may only fit to like 55%, and other 45% may need to go to others aspect, or especially applying circular economy in waste management or in production consumption, and also to the nature, especially regenerating carbon capturing from forests or mangroves, other ecological system. Yeah, just very brief on that. And circular economy also becoming one of the top agenda in Vietnam, looking at our economic growth, but also to cope with climate change, environmental pollutions, and some others. And yeah. What we are doing in our institute for circular economy, we look at circular economy in different areas, from in urban industry, circularity, where we look at urban metabolisms or industrial ecology, blue-green infrastructures, smart city related, but also at the strategic levels at for urban or industry. The second one on circular economy in agriculture and forestry, where my colleague Dr. Tu is working on. We can look at it further later, and also some other on plastic, renewable energy, circular business model, innovation. Just give you more detail on the circular economy in agriculture, where we look at this at the different step in the value chains, from the input, water, land, nutrient, to the productions, also to the consumptions, production consumption, and also across different levels, from farming system to regional or national levels. Yeah, now I come back quickly also to the Mekong Delta, where we are our case study. Yeah, first start with some opportunities on this, because it's getting attention by international, national leaders. As you see, there are a lot of coming recent and coming policy in the Mekong Delta, especially from the Mekong Delta plan in 10 years ago. Now we have the official Mekong Delta plan in 2022, and now there are also some others. And in this, there are a long, strong requirement on regional integrations, agriculture restructuring, transformations, and so green transition policies, including circular economy, and also the exploration of industrial communication technology, the revolution of technology 4.0. But at the same time, we're still facing a lot of issues, including droughts, like intrusions, urban flooding, upstream developments. Recently, there also the big project from Cambodia on extracting or diverting water from the Mekong River to the West Sea of Vietnam. And a big problem also related to groundwater is overexploitation, and consequently on land subsidence. And there's still ongoing issue on river, coastal bank erosion, water pollutions, or other thing. Okay. Just an example also on how we do it on circular economy in agriculture in the Mekong Delta. If we look at the agroecological models, so for example, if you look at the mangrove shrimp models, here are the rice shrimp model, where the ecological farming practice is very encouraging, because we don't use a very limited fertilizer or pesticides, and also it can have some other values on ecological services. Yeah. So and now in the past it's not really well evaluated, but now if we look at the green market, not only the green product, but it can be also carbon credit. So actually this type of farming system using some circular economy principle can also can be looked at crossing different scales of the farming system, not only to the national but also international one. Also, there is some other topic on innovation diffusion. I think my colleague Dr. Tu will discuss about that. Another also very important is the need of improving agriculture practice, which is more focusing on added values from agriculture. So if we just only exporting or producing raw agriculture products, the added value is very little. So recently we've been discussing on some other colleges like the VN Food. They are looking at how to extract higher value from agriculture product, which is here shrimp, but they also some others like fish, but also from fruits and some other we are working on to really utilizing let's say waste, but now it's become resources, and it can even create much higher added value where you can use it in some other industries. For example, cosmetic or food industries, rather only with some very important materials like here you see peptides or chitosans and some others. Okay, so now go to our work. So we look at how circular economy in agriculture can improve, especially also in the link to the water sectors. So here we look at more on the agriculture farming practice and innovations, and how to look at how to improve how to suggest a policy based on those innovations. We are looking at two sites, one in the freshwater zone in the upper of the delta, and one in the Prakesh Salai zone. Yeah, so our team currently we have 5 people working. Dr. Tu, Dr. Bình, Dr. Stud, Dr. Bình from Cần Thơ University, Dr. Khôi from he's now based in Australia, and Dr. Nhi, our project management and also working on governance. Actually, we are still looking for a few more people to join. We have including master or PhD. So very welcome if you have any other college you want to join us. So now I would like to pass this to my colleagues. Okay, maybe I just very brief, but I think maybe better too. We will talk because there will be a presenting for this 3 different components, from the diffusion of innovations, and also the framework for innovation impact assessment, and the final on the D-motor driver motor, and it could contribute to the overall objective on transformation and future pathway. So we are now preparing for our first kick-off workshop, expectedly by first week of May in Cần Thơ City. So we are now preparing the detailed program. Okay, I think I will leave it, and we will pass to my colleague, Dr. Tu. Yeah, Tu, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone, and can go ahead. Dr. Wung already introduced. I will present 3 case study. The first case study is conducted by myself, and we aim to link the Motaram work with the diffusion innovation. And as you know, the Motaram work is developed by Free and college, and it's the aim to explore the ability and motivation of different stakeholders on applying certain things. And the diffusion innovation is a general work that look for the diffusion innovation and also the adoption of innovation. And because we think that the multi-arm work cannot explore the driver chain and the social ecological context of the farming system. And so we aim to combine the diffusion of innovation theory with the multi-arm work to have a general work that can apply to the transformation of farming system in the Mekong Delta. And the ramp work that you see on the right hand side is the ramp work that we want to combine the two ramp work together. We will look for not only the ability to change, but the motivation and also some added value from the diffusion innovation ramp work, like communication channel, social system, and also the time and the impact of the adoption. And one of the component will have the feedback on the trigger that leads to the change of the farming system. Next slide. And to operate the ramp work, we will conduct the literature review, the interview with local stakeholders, and the final analysis. And we conducted the interview with the local stakeholder in the coastal zone of the Mekong Delta, which we look for the information on the household characteristics, the social network and support, the challenge and motivation, the capital of the household. But we don't specify to any specific change, but we only ask for the intention to change. They can change from one farming system to other without specific like changing from double ride to ride dream or to stream. And at the moment, we are locked information on the impact because we also ask for the income chain in the last 5 years and for the impact of the innovation adoption. We don't have quantitative data for that. And also we don't have too much information on the social network, which we want to do more for discussion in the future to collect more data on the social network. And we conducted a series of field visits, usually together with other researchers, to collect the data for the case study. And but to the office, we explore the context of the transformation and adoption, and we aim to link the factor of the household like component of capital or social network to the intention to change. And in the end, we had 28 structural interview with stream and corner farmer, and then we will conduct this more interview for the analysis. Next slide. And I mentioned before, we focus on the coastal zone of the Mekong Delta, the Bến Tre roving in the Mekong Delta, and there are differentiated in the roving. For example, from double ride to coconut, or from double ride to Bangkasu fish, and also from double ride to rice stream. But we focus more on the coastal zone where farmers change from double ride to rice stream, from rice stream to intensive stream farming. Next slide. And I mentioned before, we do some statistical analysis to see the linkage between the intention to change and several factors like household size, renting the flavor, appearance, land size, a number of land, or the support from the government, and also the household size or some capital of the household. And we see linkage between different factors and intention to change of the farmer. Like for the mentioned factor in one component of the multi-arm work, we think we need more interview to explore the motivation, also the stress and the productivity of farmer. And in the next step, we will link the best change with the driver and the impact, and that's it. We will conduct for more interview and more follow-up discussion. Next slide. And for the case studies too, conducted by Khoi Dang, because he cannot join the meeting today, I will give a short overview of what he is doing. Dr. Khoi is in Australia, and he aims to develop a framework that can look for the driver and the impact of the transformation adoption in the Mekong Delta. And the reason why he wants to develop a framework like that is in Vietnam we have many innovation, agricultural innovation have been developed and adopted in the farming system over the last decade. But most of the scaling outcome and the evaluation by on the ROSH framework funded by the donor or development organization with the key focus on how to plan the innovation in the narrow landscape. And the concept of agricultural innovation scaling have been involved and planned. In parallel, many scaling assessment framework have been developed, but they don't focus on why some framework fail and why some innovation adoption have been successful. And there are something Dr. Khoi found us near Bachelor to the innovation scaling define different assessment framework, and many scaling assessment framework just provide theoretical principle and not specific guideline for rational to follow. And in Vietnam, there are also a lot of field on scaling assessment, so they knowledge gap about which how successful of scaling process and what factor contribute to the scaling success. So that something Dr. Cole will explore in his paper on the development of RAM work for innovation adoption in the Mekong Delta. And the objective of his paper is introduce a framework that is able to assess systematically key factors contribute to the success of the failure of agricultural scaling in Vietnam. And we have discussed together and we see that some novelty of the framework, like we can develop a new innovation scaling assessment framework to conduct both export and analysis. That means we assess both the adoption of innovation before and after the adoption, and also look different aspects of existing framework like scaling readiness, sustainability scaling, and responsible scaling, and also some other aspects like the regime shift, the landscape of socio-ecological system affecting the adoption, and also the need of some innovation. And Dr. Khoi aimed to apply the framework for the one must do for reduction in Vietnam. Next line. And there are some results of his first review on some framework that have been developed for the innovation assessment. And some framework have been developed by USAS, World Bank, IFAC, and GIS, and also CGI, which focus on the innovation and scaling, and also, for example, like scaling hand tool, scaling readiness, and also some other method in the line. And next line. He is now looking in detail for different framework, and then we will analyze how the framework have been applied in practice, and together with the review of paper developed for the framework development, he will develop his own framework to assess the adoption of innovation we see in the network. This is a RAP framework that Dr. Khoi developed by all the other framework have been developed by development organization, and also some paper he do a literature review. And sorry that I cannot explain in detail the meaning of the factor here, but we want to go from the left hand side to the right hand side with the chain of the farming system or the adoption innovation or at the small scale, then it is scaling to the larger scale, and it involves a very large context of social ecological system. So the reason why we will see in the framework that some information on the capacity and the household characteristics of the innovation at the household level. But then when we go from the left hand side to the right hand side, there are also some factor related to the regime and the social ecological system of the transformation and adoption. Yeah, next line. And he want to apply the developed framework for one module for reduction because this standard has been introduced by IRI in Vietnam in early 2010, and it's pilot and disseminated over time. And this is one of the method that have been received a lot of support and facilitated from the government. And recently in 2023, the government Vietnam land a program called 1 million hectare high quality and low carbon rye for the Mekong Delta, and 1 month reduction has been also targeted the key innovation for scaling together with 1 million hectare of high quality and low carbon rice. Yeah, next line. And the method he applied in the literature review, secondary data analysis, expert consultation and discussion, and also he planned to have a few trips in Vietnam to collect more data for the RAM work. And next line. And because Dr. Bun is not here today, I will start his voice to present the case number 3. Dr. Bun will develop a dynamic framework for sustainable agricultural transformation called DMOTA, and he will apply the framework for the case of the Vietnamese Mekong Delta. Next line. I will go quickly into framework because I think Dr. Bun has already presented this framework several times to the team, and he also want to improve the MOTA framework by combining the MOTA framework with the 4B. 4B means policy, rights, light, reducer. It is quite similar to the reason why I want to combine the diffusion of innovation and the MOTA framework together. Because for the MOTA framework, we also look at the individual coordination. We focus too much on the motivation, perception, ability. But there are also other factors, like we call the driver of transformation, like policy of the government at national level, right of the international markets, like which involve the social ecological context, and also the producer, like the company involved in the process of adoption, diffusion, and transformation. So the reason why Dr. Bun want to improve the MOTA by adding the value of 4B framework. And he want to look at for the change of farming system from right to other rock like stream, woods, upland rock, and he will not only look for the motivation ability, but also the driver of transformation you see in the right hand side figure. And also the impact for the longer term, why some farmer adopt the farming system, and then after a few years they neglect the farming system and go back to the river farming system. Here we also look for that. And next line. And for the field work, Dr. Bun has conducted a field work together with ICD team in Bến Tre, and conducted several interviews with Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, Agricultural Attention Center, Division of Agriculture, and also local government, farmer cooperative, individual farmer, and also the service provider. Next line. And for the DMOTA framework, he found that the transformation driven strongly by economic and profit factor, less focus on environmental and social. That means the market driver and the profits of the new farming system is usually the key driver driving the transformation. And also the impact of the adoption is different between different groups and at multiple scale. And there are also environmental conflicts among various groups between the Dupurai or Rarim who rely on sweat water, and the stream farmer who needs saline water for their new farming system. Therefore, we need more sustainable strategy. And next line. And for the next step, Dr. Bun plan to have discussion with the stakeholder to discuss my robot strategy, and considering 3 aspects of social, economic, and environmental dimension. And he writing a Bible with the title to work dynamic framework for sustainable agricultural transformation, DMOTA, the case of Vietnamese Mekong Delta. And Dr. Bun plan to present the result in May. Hopefully, we will see the results soon. Yeah, next line. Yeah, and for the next step, Dr. Bun will provide more information. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you, Do. Yeah, so I think we stop here because I think we already mentioned those things. Those already mentioned. So now my colleague Dr. Ho is finalizing the framework. Actually, want to, actually we just had a meeting last week, but it's not updated to the slide, but maybe good to share with you that, because we see we see the framework that's how it's developing. Actually, it's not only applicable, maybe not only applicable for the Mekong Delta, but can be at the global scale. So actually, we are discussing if we can also collaborate with other college, looking at some other innovation cases in agriculture, in Africa or South America or some others, so we can develop a bit more generalized framework for the global case, which is we can also target to high impact journal, and then we can apply it again to some specific cases in the Mekong Delta, which is going mentioned one of the very recent policy or program on agriculture transformation in the Mekong Delta. So that I'd like to also share with you. Yeah, I think yeah, actually, and also some input from Wim from the last flat discussion. We are still actually building like more from three ongoing or parallel cases, but the whole will be also on the still looking at the transformation pathway or framework, and we will make interpreted the one include the roles. Actually, our last discussion, we already see some thing there, but need some time to refine the framework, and respectively, we will come up with this by August. Okay, so I think I will stop here. A little bit over time. Sorry for that. Looking forward to your further discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Kwon and Min too for the nice update and presentation. So it means the floor is open for questions and discussion, and maybe we can start with the two questions really related to the Mekong Delta case, and one of the two related to similarity between Mekong and Brahmaputra that Joydeep put in the chat. Do you want to explain your questions a bit further, Joydeep, or you want to let the chat message speak for itself?
Yeah, exactly. Only if they don't understand. I'm sure they understand. If they don't, I'll explain.
Yeah, so then maybe take a bit of time to find them, Kwon, and two. I think the first question was on observing a common problem between Brahmaputra and Mekong on sand mining on the riverbed, both legal and maybe even more illegal. And the second one is the question. Well, that's the last one in the chat. Maybe you can just read it. The effect of the Mekong on the Mekong Delta of the proposed canal from Cambodia to the sea, and what it will do with freshwater flows.
Yeah, I think we can quickly respond to the sand mining case. Yeah, I think it's a big problem. It will especially also including illegal issues. Yeah, some of our, I will share with you one of our recent paper, not recent, but a few years ago, 2 years ago, papers. And so we do investigate on sand mining in the Mekong deltas, and there are some also recent publication on that. There are big issues in the delta, but now the government is really strict on that. Actually, there are some already, including top leader of province went to the jail because of things related to illegal sand minings. And we are also, let's say, very thirsty on sand now, because especially for transportation, road infrastructure, including road development, and we are really thirsty on the sand. So actually, there will be a lot of we have to work a lot on that. So recently, there I was in another meeting just about 3 weeks ago, and also there are some ongoing activities with support from the WWF, Wildlife for Nature, also working on alternative sense things. Yeah, so the consequence is quite big, including riverbank erosions, including increasing saline intrusion over the river estuary. So it's really big issues together with the over exploited groundwater, and yeah, so quite a big challenge. Yeah, because it's linked too close to the socio-economical development. Yeah, and not only in the Delta, but even link it, for example, to Ho Chi Minh City, because when we was rely a lot on the sense budget in the Delta as well. So, and we are in the really demanding on infrastructure development that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, but so I think we need to work a lot on that together with agriculture issues. Yeah, I think Vietnam also have some.
And in fact, indeed, I think it also plays a role in a lot of other river basins as well. And maybe the second question that Joydeep posed, Kun, on the proposed canal from Cambodia to the sea, or Min too, if he has the expertise.
I think I also following up this issue, even we don't have really too much information at this moment. So the Cambodia government is now injecting to develop the new canals, extracting water from the Mekong Delta and go to the west side, also to the sea. So it means that the water in the main river will be reduced, of course, and this the issue will be the same as we have problem of many other upstream development. So saline water may increase and less fresh water. Yeah, but we don't have exact information about that, and so we cannot really quantify the impact in detail. But certainly they have. So, but that's another thing. I think that also issue of governance in the Mekong Delta, in the Mekong River basin. So there's not really a kind of consulting process, and also there's not allowed, or maybe not to really interfere in the project development. There's some consulting process, but I think there's still we have been observant on that before, not only in this project, but like you see, there are many other projects upstream, not only from China, who's not in the Mekong River basin, but Laos, Thailand, some Cambodia. We also have a lot of dams, construction activities, and so I think anyway we have to adapt to the situation, and at the same time, I think negotiations or further discussions amongst the lower Mekong River-based countries is much necessary. Yeah, and recently we've been also discussed a bit about this. Some with other colleagues from the United States, also Australia recently. We need to look.
Oh, I'm not sure if the connection has dropped now.
Not also business opportunities among those. So I think it's a big issue, but
I think, Kun, that the connection is getting very shaky. Can you still hear us? I hope so.
Yes. Okay. I hear it well.
Then maybe I hope the stability magically improves. Because I see also Vina has her hand raised now for quite some time. So Vina, did you want to make a comment or a question?
Yeah, I'm just interested to know about the adaptability of how far it is adopted, the concept of 1:5 reductions. Like, even in India, the concept of system of price intensification, alternate weighting and trying, all this has been practiced and promoted by civil society organization. But if you look at the scale, it is not like a pan-India level adoption. How is it in Vietnam? Like,
yeah, thank you, Vena. I think it's a very good question. And yes, we are working on that. So actually, especially we have a thing like in the presentation from Khoi, we have two projects funded by World Bank, the Vinasas and another one. So look at how this practice can be upscale or further implementations. And also, our last meeting, Khoi also mentioned even we like 5 reduction, but in practice, on maybe only 2 or maybe 3 is applied, but 2 other is not easy to implement. So that is one thing. But we also see there another opportunities, because if we do the 5 reductions and some others, we now also getting some additional support or additional payment by carbon reductions. So now we just received recent money from as a loans from World Bank to pay farmers like about 40 US dollars per hectares who cultivate this practice. And also you see the recent rice practice rice the rice price is getting good recently, and we hope we can introduce more in ecological rice farming practice, and with some, let's say, additional payments. And even if we look at the opportunity or the solution from circular economy, either more ecologically, but also more technologically, as I mentioned, agro industry business. So I hope we can support the agriculture, or we can, our agriculture in the Delta may have some, let's say, more sustainable. Okay, yeah. Just early today, also have the attending a new projects. No, not a kind of consulting projects funded by the European countries for Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, and they also support a lot agriculture, circular economy for Vietnam in general, and also including the Mekong Delta. So just see some opportunity, but of course in implementation or practice, we need to work a lot. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Wim. I also
Yeah.
saw you typed a question in the chat.
Yes. Let's see. Yeah, Wim, you want to say, or I can respond to you?
No, I think it's clear. I thought it was also another nice presentation, and so I can see the scope of the 3 studies in terms of understanding change and upscaling of innovations. But I also saw, I was not sure about it, what type of innovations, because in one case you look at this from triple to double rice and less intensive rice and brackish. So I was wondering, what does it say about if you want to understand the use of these tools across multiple innovations? That is basically my question.
Yeah, thank you, Wim. Maybe Tố, could you please respond to Wim?
Yeah, hello, thank you, Wim, for the question. In the 3 case study, for the case study of Dr. Khoi, he's mostly look for the transformation strategy within the same system. That means he look for the apply of the farming practices within rice farming system. That means farmer down chain from rice to another farming system. But for the case study of myself on diffusion innovation and MOTA and the framework of the Bình, combining the MOTA and the 4B framework, we look for the change one farming system to another. That means we look for the trend from rice to stream, the totally change of the whole farming system. And I could say the case of myself and Dr. Bình, we look for the transformative transformation, and for the case of Dr. Khoi, he looked for more like incremental transformation. That means the small changes within the same system without looking a very radical change like Mike Kay and Dr. Bình Kay.
Yeah.
Yes, and also can be something overlapping, even like rice. Look at that dry practice, but sometimes we can also have some other farming system apart from dry. We can look at shrimps or fruit. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I see that
Thank
Annemieke
you.
also has raised her hand, and I'd like Annemieke to be a bit short, but also a short reply, because I myself would also like to ask a question, and then I think with those two questions, the time will probably be up. But Annemieke, you're first.
Yeah, very quickly. Thank you. A nice, very interesting presentation. I wanted to understand, how do you select your stakeholders or the actors? Because I think in MOTA that is really very important. So do you make a list of actors? Because how do you ensure that it's a very inclusive process in terms of, for example, gender, and also in terms of socioeconomic status of the farmers, small farmers, big farmers? You may have presented it, but somehow I couldn't get the answer. So I thought I'll just ask you that, Con.
Yeah, thank you, Annemieke. Yes, I think we did not present it too detailed on this, but as on working on the MOTA framework, we have a step. If you may look at our MOTA manual, we published, I think, almost a few years ago. And we also have a step where we look at key actors in that. But of course, I tell you, I think we are not really too inclusive, as you mentioned, on gender or more vulnerable groups or people. So I think that could be some other thing we need to do more, because yeah, but in the past we do, but not so so inclusiveness. Yeah, so I think we may need someone who maybe more focused on this inclusivity issues. Thank you, Annemieke.
Yeah, thank you. And otherwise, maybe it's a good opportunity for cross-note sharing and linkage. If you have trouble finding some experts, I think we have some good experts in the network as well that can help you with that aspect. So that's nice. My question is related to the transdisciplinary problem diagnosis. Had the ambition in the Transpath planning project is actually quite high and quite complicated. It is not just to do meaningful research with societal relevance on transformation planning approaches and topics, but actually also do that as scientists together with stakeholders. And there are really a lot of different ways to go about it. My sort of understanding from the process in the Vietnam node so far is that it actually has been in the first stages more science driven, but inspired by the background of the societal relevance and national policies on circular economy in Vietnam. But that now the next step would be to make that link to the societal stakeholders more explicitly, so that they can also be part of the process. And I was wondering, do you already have one or two key societal partners in mind? Like I think at least my impression from the Brahmaputra basin is that, for instance, CUTS is one of those key societal partners, similar to maybe JJS in Bangladesh, and CGIS is maybe somewhere in between research and society. But for your note, do you already have one or two such key societal partners that can help you to make it not just research, but actually also transdisciplinary between science and society?
Yes, I think I would say something, and maybe Tố, you can add more. Yeah, I think this is very relevant, and it's not an easy one. But I think as given our, I think positions in the society, our university at the Eco Ministry University, and we have really a strong connection to the local governments, and And also and different work we can work with different organizations in Vietnam in general or in the Mekong Delta. Yeah, so I think that is some of our advantages for the next step. Currently, we also work another project with one of our partners who are it's called Institute for Social Life. It's an NGO, and they have a very specific focus on social issues, including job creation in circular economy and also a bit to migrations. Yeah, and they are another important partner that we actually plan to work together for the coming workshop in May, which is one of the very big newspaper in Vietnam, and they connect us to many others, including other newspapers, local governments, and also help to public or share our information to different stakeholders. So, for example, in the beginning on the morning section, will be more to the general group of people, but then in our afternoon section, we'll be more invited those let's say experts who have some knowledge of an understanding about this, and then we can come up with some our specific design for those experts. Yeah, maybe Tu, you can add a bit more.
Yeah, I think we will look for more local stakeholder during the workshop in Cần Thơ. We collaborated with Institute for Mekong Research Development Institute to organize the workshop, and we will invite local stakeholder and researcher working in the Mekong Delta, because our university is a little bit far away from the Mekong Delta, and also some company working on technology in dry reduction and stream reduction, and we hope that they can share their expertise during the workshop. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I realize it's not always easy, and what is never easy is to get really a balance that is really satisfactory for all the parties involved, and probably it goes in different ways in different sites and different countries and different regions. So it's interesting to see how you are going about it, and like I said, I think we put high ambitions for the Transpath planning project, so it's understandable that there is no easy way forward to meet our ambitions, but it's good to see in this first session today that actually from those two notes we are already making initial progress towards those ambitions, and that we have initial problem framings. In closing, maybe let me share three sort of pitfalls that we know are there in this transdisciplinary and transformative problem framing processes that I think many also we have come across this morning, and maybe we will also come across them in the upcoming workshops. But one I think we have already seen is the problem awareness and the maybe even the insufficient problem framing that is likely to be quite different among all the stakeholders involved in these processes. I think we've seen that also this morning. The risk of these processes of unbalanced problem ownership. So if we really want to do something with society, we also have to have someone in society who also feels that they own the problem that the researchers would like to address, or vice versa, or that the researchers own the problem that societal stakeholders are expressing. A third one is that sometimes there is this question of the legitimacy of the team or the actors involved in the process. I think we have not really touched on that today. Maybe it's not something that plays in the notes, or maybe it is something that could play in the note at a later stage. But it's also another known sort of issue, something to really take care of. And then we have the critical living lab question open for responses later. But for now, let's end this first learning workshop session. We will continue later today or tonight for those of you who are willing to stay up very late with another session that starts at 5 p.m. Dutch time, where we discuss about the Mexico and the Nile Basin nodes. If you can't join, don't worry, we will also record that session. And on Thursday, we have a third session discussing the Kenya and Netherlands nodes. So hope to see some of you at some of those sessions. And thank you for this really nice session and the great presentations from the Brahmaputra and Vietnam nodes. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you, Anarika. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.